is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Anthony Bordas DDS. He brings more than 20 years of clinical experience in the surgical placement and prosthetic restorations of dental implants. He has lectured extensively in the past 10 years on incorporating surgical and prosthetic principles into the general practice environment. He is a fellow and diplomat of the International Congress of Oral Implantology and an active member and associate fellow of the American Academy of Implant Dentistry. He is a graduate and a fellow of the Mish International Implant Institute at the University of Pittsburgh, an active member of the AGD and the ADA. He graduates from the University of Southern California Dental School and was on faculty on the dental school. His practice has evolved into a general practice with an emphasis on bone regeneration and implant dentistry. And he's talking to us today from Downey, California, where we've had Michael DeTola on the show several times from Downey, California. And that was what, the first or second McDonald's ever? What, the first one was in San Bernardino and you say the second one was in Downey?
Downey, California. It's still standing and running. It looks like the old McDonald's with the big yellow arches. It's incredible. They're still serving the old McDonald's and the old, cups. It's an incredible place. Well, they have a museum too.
Ray Kroc was a big influence on me, and I got to see him lecture when I was about 10 because my dad had 9 Sonic drive-ins, so when you went to a restaurant convention, he was a keynote speaker. I remember we got in Wichita and we drove down Interstate 35, I think it was, to Dallas. It was a 6-hour drive, and we sat in the front row, and I only remember one thing being 10 years old, and all I remember him is talking about the bathrooms. He was just saying, when those families start driving down the interstate, they're going to have to go to the bathroom. Now, Dad, he'll go anywhere. He'll pee on his own truck. But Mom's a squatter. She's got to sit. And McDonald's is going to clean their woman's bathroom every hour on the hour. We're going to have the cleanest bathroom. When she pulls up off that interstate, she's going to see a filling station, and she's going to know it looks like a camel just used it, and then she's going to see that McDonald's. She says, that's where I want to go squat, in a clean bathroom. And while she's in the bathroom, the daddy bear is going to be over there getting salty French fries and delicious Coca-Cola. And I just always thought of him as, he's an operation logistics genius, but he really was a psychologist. I mean, he really knew how a human think, cleanliness, availability. He's just an amazing man. And I thought the movie they did on him was really well done.
Oh, great movie, definitely. It's a big
Who was the star in that movie?
What's his name from?
Keating?
No. Michael.
Yeah, man, just unbelievably nailed it. So, my gosh, so podcasters, they're not old like us. I mean, they're not in their 50s. They're still in dental school. They're all under 30. I always tell people, drop me a comment at YouTube, how old you are, what country you're from, or email me howard@dentaltown.com. But they're all coming out of school, Anthony, and they're saying the same thing. They said, like Arizona has 2 private schools, one in Mesa, A.T. Still, and one in Glendale, Midwestern. They're charging them $100,000 a year. And they say, dude, I got out of school. I didn't place one implant. And you're like the legendary guru of implantology, and I can't believe you came on the show. Thank you so much. But what would you advise some 25-year-old girl that walked out with $400,000 in debt and she wants to learn implants?
Well, the way I started, Howard, is, I opened up my practice right out of dental school. I opened up a 1-operatory practice, 800 square feet, no assistants, a portable phone next to me. I used a rubber dam on every patient because I had no assistant. So I worked 1 day a week, and then I worked for 3 or 4 different offices. And my dad had a gas station in Downey. That was his thing. So he would hand out cards to everybody that came through. And I worked there as a kid, changing oil. It was full service back then, so I'm cleaning windshields. Everybody knew I was going to dental school. So when I graduated, I had a big push from that gas station down the street that was sending me patients left and right. So I went from 1 day to 2 days to 3 days. Luckily, there was a periodontist upstairs from me, Dr. Ronald Barbanel. Unfortunately, he passed away. He was slamming implants left and right before anybody in the area. Old school, incredible. So I used to go upstairs, pop in on him, and he used to always tell me, this is the future, Anthony. You've got to learn this. There were no programs back then. if you were a GP back then, even a specialist, you couldn't do a specialty in implantology. So I did some research. I either had to go to Sweden to train with Brandemark, and if you're a GP, there's no way. So I found Carl Misch like you did, a lot of us did back then, and I hopped on the bandwagon. Every third weekend, and I had kids, private practice, I'd fly to Pittsburgh. It was the University of Pittsburgh back then. So I applied to Pittsburgh. I did this for a year. Then I did his continuing programs, and I learned the hell out of a lot of implants. And we were doing implants before CT scans. Never had a problem, but I always knew implementation. I did was simple and profitable, and that's the key to my practice. Keep it simple, keep it profitable, do things that work. I'm not throwing in all on fours like some of these kids go out and they want to do all on fours, all on sixes, and they put these big titanium frameworks, and these patients are smiling with all this crazy heavy. Have you ever held one of those all-four devices? Those break down. I don't know what's going to happen with those things 10, 15 years from now. It might be a nightmare. So my thing is, if you're out of school with a ton of money, don't spend a lot of money, get your feet wet, start doing oral surgery, find a mentor. You've got to find a mentor in the area, which it's hard to do now because I don't know about Arizona, but nobody talks to anybody around here anymore. In the old days, you can get together with your buddies, have a few beers, you talk about dentistry, you can go down the street and hop in, drop in the oral surgeon's office, he'd help you out, you go and have a few drinks with them afterwards. For some reason, that's not existent anymore. But it's important to find some mentors, and take it one step at a time. Learn to do good oral surgery, learn to do good endo, and then start placing simple implants. But you need, nowadays, you can't take a weekend course and go in and do implants. If you do one implant a month, you're going to lose money. You're going to have complications. If you're going to do implants in your office, you need to be doing at least, I say, 10 a month to be profitable and to be good at it. There's no way you're going to be good at it and spend, 50, 60 grand, get a CBCT scan, get in debt, and drop one implant a month. Give me a break. Just hire a periodontist or an oral surgeon to come to your office and take care of those, for you. I think you've got to get your feet wet, work hard. I used to work 6 days a week, Howard, out of dental school. Work really hard, pay your debts off, live out of your car if you have to, get rid of your debts, and then when you're moving nice and easy, you've got some cash to come in, go take a maxi course. Loma Linda here has one of the best maxi courses in implantology. It's sponsored by the AID. You get your fellowship out of that, and then you'll come out with a really good knowledge, placing implants, diagnosing them, and you'll be profitable. You can't just, come out of school and start investing money in doing this the way some of these kids are doing it. There's no way. You got to pay your dues, Howard.
Man, we have such similar deals. I did the same thing. I had 4 boys and was flying out to Pittsburgh once a month with Carl Misch and got my fellowship in the mission student diploma and all that. We had very similar journeys. So why did you and I walk out of dental school and open up our practice right out of the gate when the people in dental school right now, I tell them, go to the admin office, get all the names and emails of all the dentists that graduated 5 years ago, and ask them if they're all working as an associate, living happily ever after, and they're all miserable, and they all change jobs every year. Do they just need like 5 years of sticking their tongue in a light socket before they eventually just go work for themselves? Why did we do it and they wait so long?
It's a good question because, I was really driven back then. I came out with, at my time in '86, I had $70,000 of school loans, which to me was a hell of a lot of money back then. But Howard, I paid those things off in 5 years and less. I worked my ass off. I think the mentality is different with these young kids. They come out of school, they think, okay, I'm going to go out and make $150,000, $200,000 a year. I'm just going to work for corporate. They're going to pay me. And then they end up in corporate like they're miserable. Okay. They're put on a production basis. they hate going to work, and then they're completely miserable, and then they get depressed, and God knows what happens after that. I mean, you've got to come out. You don't spend 4 years in dental school to go out and work for a corporation. You really don't. This is one of the only professions, I think, where you can go out there and open up a little shack. I mean, you can find opportunities to this day, even in California. I mean, my daughter lives up in Northern California. There's little towns in Northern California that still need good dental care, but you've got to live outside the city. If you're going to practice in San Francisco or downtown LA, I don't know if you've been to downtown LA or Beverly Hills lately. You go into one of those towers in downtown LA, and you go up by the elevator, you look at the directory. One of those buildings, you know, a 20-story building has over 50, 60 dentists in the building. I mean, that's crazy. You go out to NorCal, Northern California, outside, little competition. You're going to get paid less, little competition, but you're going to be busy. So you just got to push yourself. You got to get out there. You got to do some research. You just can't sit there and, you know, have it happen for you. I mean, I don't think it's a different world, honestly. I don't think there's any more competition now than when I came out of dental school. I just think the mentality is totally different.
You said when you opened up your office, what were your hours? Because the point I'm making is, when you opened, you had one operatory. Well, one operatory open 168 hours a week, because that's how many hours are in a week, would be the same as 5 operatories open 32 hours a week. I mean, it's simple math. These dentists are only open 19% of the week. I mean, they'll go to a town. When I came to Phoenix, I mean, there were a bunch of dentists on the corner, but they only work Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. So I was open till 7 p.m. I was open all day Friday and Saturday, and it was great. It was a lot of competition Monday through Thursday to 5, but evenings were awesome. Saturday was awesome, and you just hustled. I mean, same thing. We graduated same student loan debt. I had $87,000, and again, we paid it off quickly. I would have paid it off faster, but I was buying a bunch of panel equipment and, you know, expanding the operations.
You know, I still work late evenings. Twice a week I'm here till 7. I used to work every Saturday. We can be open now in my practice if I had the right, and you know, I'm talking about associates. If I had the right associates here, I can literally be open every Saturday and be busy now. It's that busy here. But when I started, I would literally work 6 days a week, honestly. People don't believe that, and they thought I was crazy. My wife thought, remember the days where I'd be taking the kids to soccer practice and you'd be working? That's, if you go down the street to a corporate office, they're open. Some of these are open 7 days a week now. It's unreal. So you've got to be, you don't have to be a corporation, but you have to think like one. You have to train your staff like a corporation. Just be your own mini corporation in your own little ecosystem here, and you can compete in this environment. But you have to work. Got to work hard. I mean, I'm still working super hard, and I don't have to, but I actually enjoy it.
Do you like so many things? So you talked about this AAID Maxi course. That's the American Academy of Implant Dentistry. So you think if someone wants to be an implantologist, they should take a Maxi course?
The only way nowadays. There's no option.
It's the only way right now. No way. Wow, that's a strong endorsement. I'm trying to see the home. Their course. Their site is AAID.com.
Right. They have Maxi courses all over the United States. The one in California that's top notch, it's the one out of Loma Linda.
Wow.
And the reason why, you can't learn it. I had a good mentor. I mean, I was lucky. I had a periodontist that mentored me, and I honestly had, I had Carl Misch. I became really good friends with Carl, and these guys were great mentors. But unless you can find a mentor that's going to guide you, that's the only way. You've got to take a Maxi course.
So, what did Carl mean to you? That was my favorite podcast of all time because he was terminally ill and the format's an hour because the commute's an hour. But I wasn't going to interrupt him and say we're over. I mean, he went for 2.5 hours. Did you get a chance to see that one?
That was the best podcast ever.
No, this one is.
That one with Carl Misch, it was incredible. I mean, it brought tears in my eyes. You know, I went. They had a big celebration for him when he was sick, and he was, you know, he was going through chemo and all that stuff. And I mean, I saw him there. I mean, I go, this guy is a genius, and now he was stricken so bad by this disease. But I don't know if you ever heard his brother speak, Craig.
Craig,
Is
absolutely.
he's just phenomenal.
My
It's
God.
unreal.
Yeah, I love
The
Craig.
guy board certified, prosthodontist, oral surgeon, MD, unreal.
Yeah, that was episode 282, man. My gosh, that was a hell of an episode. My homies, I know how they think. So you're putting it in order for them. You're saying, okay, join the AAID, take a maxi course. This is Dentistry Uncensored, so let's talk crude and rude. A lot of the I just lost him. Oh, there he is. Are you there?
There you go.
A
Yeah,
lot of the education is tied to a manufacturer. So the people putting on the
Right.
course are selling the implants. So a lot of my homies out there listening think, do I have to pick an implant system, then go learn the training, or can I learn because I look at it as like when we took driver's ed when we were 14 in Kansas. I mean, they didn't care what car you were in. They said, you got a driver's license to drive a car. But is it that way in implantology? Or is it almost like driver's ed has to be in a Chevy or a Ford?
No, I mean, like most of these maxi courses are university based, but they are sponsored by some implant system. You know, does the implant really matter nowadays? I mean, to a point it does. I mean, you do need to think about design, their research. So it does. And I've used probably every product in the market, honestly. You know, I've lectured for AB Dental, MIS, BioHorizons. I mean, you name it. I have probably 10 surgical kits in the office. You know, this is Dentistry Uncensored. So I'll tell you, I am a big Straumann fan now. I get a volume discount through Straumann because I buy a lot of implants. The thread design, the texture, I mean, that implant, I've never seen anything like it. There are a lot of good implants out there. I mean, the top tier 5 implants are all good. I mean, Straumann, BioHorizons, Nobel, you know, you can throw the Dentsply's in there, and, you know, the Zimmer Biomed. You're never going to lose with those implants. Now, when you get to the level of placing a lot of implants, you have relationships with these manufacturers, and you get volume discounts. So am I paying as much as, you know, somebody that's buying, you know, 5 implants a month? No, I'm paying a lot less. And I have a good oral surgeon friend that places a shitload of Straumanns, and this guy's getting a bigger discount. So that's the way these companies work their pricing with you. I mean, if you're just starting out placing 1 or 2 implants, you know, a month, you're not going to get that discount. So Straumann might not be the implant for you because you're going to pay a premium for it. But they're all good implants. I'd say stick to the top tier 5 companies because you're never going to have a problem with getting parts for them. If you want to call the rep, you know, they're always available to help you out. When you go to these companies that, you know, are, you know, brand new on the market, you've got to be a little careful. You really do. So then that's the key. And I've been involved with a lot of different companies and their development phases, but they're all really good. I mean, they all integrate. They're FDA approved. If they're approved by the European medical approval process, if they're used in Europe, the USA, you're not going to have a problem if you want to use a lower priced implant. But
what's the approval rating from the Europeans, the EU? What's their committee called?
What the heck is it? It's what's that called? It's C something rather. I can look that up.
I got to tell you, I know that when you're an American, you have to think that this is the greatest country in the world. But how many countries have you been to?
I mean, Europe. You know what? The Europeans have incredible products. I'll be honest with you.
There's a lot of countries that do things so much better than the United States, like all of Scandinavia and Australia. I mean, if those aren't some of the greatest civilizations ever, but I think that it was the EU who brought down Microsoft's abuses, and it'll be the EU that brings down Facebook and Google and Apple still, because the United States government, it's just, you want to get a bill passed, you got to get out a bunch of bills and start paying. But one thing I've noticed about you mentioned Straumann, and we do the Downey Choice Award every year, where all the townies vote on their products, and it's so amazing because you went through dental school, 4 years undergrad, 4 years dental school. No one in your class was stupid. They all got A's in calculus and geometry and trig and Krebs and all this stuff like that. And so market share is a huge deal. And Gordon Christian and I several times have looked down at the Downey Choice of winners, and he goes, "Man, everybody voting has 8 years of college. It's not like who's voting on the best movie at Hollywood." You know what I mean? And right. Straumann sells the most units of implants. And I want to tie that around to something else you said earlier. Not only does Straumann sell the most implants in the world, and they bought Neodent in Brazil and MIS, Make It Simple in Israel and all that kind of stuff. But that guy came on my show. I always notice the most successful people make a religion out of availability. I've asked the CEO of BioHorizons, No BioCare, Dentsply, Astra, Zimmer. You don't even get a reply to your request. I mean, they can't even hit reply and say no. It's just, and so you talked earlier about you met a periodontist who would show you the ropes. And yeah, the majority of humans are tribal and they think in fear and scarcity. And the oral surgeon, if you say, "Will you teach me how to place implants?" She says, "No, refer them to me." But I'm guaranteeing you in every county in America, there's someone who thinks like me and you that think in a friend, hope, growth, abundancy. This is cool. I mean, and like say 31 years ago, half the dentists in Ahwatukee didn't want to have anything to do with me. The other half wanted to drink beers and watch the NFL and talk dentistry and shop. And 30 years later, I can assure you which group made twice the net income as the other group. So going around, I mean, it's a growing market. Like orthodontists are afraid of Invisalign and Smiles Direct Club. I mean, my God, last year in the United States, only 5% of Americans get ortho. It has 95%. What percent of 50-year-old women in California would like to have their teeth a little straighter and a little wider?
Hey, I'm up for do-it-yourself orthodontics with Smile Direct. I mean, I don't see a problem with them at all. I mean, they're going after a market that needs to have straighter teeth, mild crowding. You know, who's going to pay $5-6 grand nowadays to see an orthodontist when they can go to, CVS Pharmacy now has small express shops. I mean, we're doing that in our office now because, I mean, there's a huge market out there. I don't know why everybody's trying to sue this company, the American Association of Orthodontists, the Wisconsin Dental Society. They're trying to sue them to put them out of business. Hey, you know what? These guys went after the market. They're innovative. I mean, just create a product, compete with them. But hey, they're bringing awareness to the market. I mean, it's an incredible marketing, platform.
Oh my God, Smiles Direct Club, they're up to 4,000 employees. They're about to do an IPO. If that was your son, if you're an orthodontist, and that was your son, you'd be cheerleading and saying, "Look at my son. He's the poster boy of American competition, ingenuity, all these things." But then when it's a competitor, then they're like, they want to run to the government, who for the last 5,000 years always helps the rich form a cartel against price fixing, against, creating the poor. The poor are designed by the governments working closely with large companies forming a cartel. And I think America's always been number one because we've had the least amount of that compared to a lot of these crony capital deals. But go back and watch episode 839, Implants Around the World with Marco Gadola, CEO of Straumann, because he really talks about that stuff. I'm going to go through a couple other things with you because I really do. I think you're a genius. So many of your business moves are so obvious. Like you on your dental website is CompleteDentalSolutions.com. And I noticed that you have an anesthesiologist. I mean, it seems like I'm out here in Arizona, and twice in the last 5 years, some pediatric dentist has lost a patient down in Yuma, and they don't recover. We saw the case in Hawaii. They always go viral on social media. But do you do IV sedation? And would you recommend a young 25-year-old girl with 400 grand learning IV sedation? Or would you say, you know what, you're not a board certified dental anesthesiologist. Just have them come in. So what percent of the IV do you do, and what percent does your board-certified dental anesthesiologist, Mark Torbener, do?
I do 0% of IV, zero. If I need somebody sedated, Mark is the guy. I mean, and it's just not for implants. I've done cases where I'm doing immediate dentures. I mean, I've had patients that need quads of SRPs and some restorative work. He'll come in and knock them out for 3-4 hours for me. This guy is top notch. You should get on, if you want him on your show.
Absolutely.
This guy's incredible. I'll hook you up with him. He's a great guy. And he'll talk about all the problems about sedation. I don't understand why these kids will go out and get, with all of the, legality with sedation nowadays, and how many patients really need sedation? Come on, get some nitrous oxide for the mild cases and get a board certified anesthesiologist to do the work for you. This guy has never had a problem. He comes in with a ton of equipment. He's got these patients hooked up. Any little thing that goes wrong when these alarms go off, he tells you, slow down, Anthony, I'll take care of it. It's unbelievable. And he has treated patients that are medically compromised for me, sedate them, high blood pressure, brings their blood pressure down for me. There's no way you should be, there's no way at all you should be doing IV sedation unless you're board certified medical or dental anesthesiologist. Don't waste your money on it. Hire one of these guys.
And so you got to look around the world. I mean, there's 20 really developed, rich countries that do a lot of things right. All their street lights work. They have 911. They have internet connection, your cell phone coverage. And none of those countries let you do the anesthesia and the procedure. And in U.S. hospitals, a cardiovascular surgeon can't do the bypass and the anesthesia. The only place you're still seeing it is in dentistry, and oral surgeons, periodontics, and my oral surgeon up the street from us, who we've had on the show, he brought in anesthesiology, not just because, he's a DDS, MD, he could do it, but he says just for the practice management, he can do so many more cases by having someone else do the anesthesia. So yeah, it's safer because you have one guy just totally looking at the anesthesia and all the vitals and all the monitors, and he can just go in there and pull wisdom teeth and place implants. So there's just, I don't know why dentists want to take this on.
I mean, could you imagine a plastic surgeon doing anesthesia and him doing a boob job? That'd be crazy.
Well, who was that famous blonde comedian that just went in to have a bump removed? And Joan Rivers.
Joan Rivers, imagine that.
Yeah, and here she is, top of her game, gets a laryngospasm. She's gone. What a great loss.
Didn't you guys just lose some child in Arizona?
Oh, yeah, we have. I've been here 31 years. I'd say it's about every 3 years.
How come this happens a lot in Arizona?
I don't know. Well, one guy it was a terrible mistake. The hygienist went and numbed up the kid, and then he didn't know it. Then he came and re-numbed up the kid, and so they got. But even talking about that, what % of dentists weigh their patients before they give them anesthetic? It's just they don't even weigh. They don't have a measurement. When you go into your physician, the first thing they do is they weigh you. And and they take your vitals and monitors. Dentists just they don't do that. And what's funny, there's only 3 publicly traded DSOs in the world. 2 of them are in Australia. One 300 Smiles, one's Pacific Smiles, and there's H&Q out of Singapore. And in order for them to go public, they could not. The Wall Street boys looked at that and said, you can't provide anesthesia, IV sedation for anyone over 16 or under 16 or over 60, because that's where all the trouble is. So just right. For them not to have an accident, they can only do it if you're a board certified anesthesiologist between the ages of 16 and 60. But when you start putting down a 2-year-old, my God, or a 70-year-old, it's just crazy. So I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. She only wants to buy 1 implant kit. Does that mean you just recommend Straumann, or what would you recommend? One to do the 80-20 rule. She could do 80% of her cases if she had this 1 kit.
I would probably go, because it was built for the GP. I would go with the BioHorizons.
Out of Alabama.
Yeah, and if you ever want to, Steve Bogan's the CEO of BioHorizons. He was with Carl in the early days. You should get him on too.
I've asked him. 3 times.
Have you really?
Yeah.
but the
Well,
BioHorizons.
but in all fairness, public speaking is one of the biggest fears. I mean, I have really close friends that are really smart and all that stuff, and they can give a lecture because they did the PowerPoint and they're going to go up there and read from the podium and read through the slides. But just free flowing live, like you and I are sitting here at a McDonald's in Downey having a cheeseburger, that just scares the holy living bejesus out of 90% of all my homies. So you recommend the BioHorizons. So you're saying that Alabama, they can't win a bowl game, but they can make an implant? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying, the kit was built, Carl, he was part of the innovator of the BioHorizons system. He built the kit for the GP. So it has drill stops on it. It has a very good flow pattern for the GP. The implants are what they call a 3-in-1 implants with the abutment and the carry on them, and the carrier contains. So you're not paying for a lot of parts and pieces. It's very streamlined, super easy to use, all color coded, so you can just follow the steps. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're done. So I would go with BioHorizons. They're really creative on the way they developed that kit.
Yeah,
Straumann was.
Yeah, I remember back in the Mish Pittsburgh days. The biggest memory I have of that whole event was it was 7 3-day weekends, and on the 4 3-day weekends, it was the same class. You'd already been with these guys 4 3-day weekends, and Kiss had a concert. And I was and I said to these guys, I said, "Come on, let's all go to the Kiss concert." Like, we don't have tickets, and I said, "Come on, we're dentists, we'll just walk down there." And we got some tickets. It was so fun. But yeah, BioHorizons, and so you recommend them? That's amazing. Tell that guy he needs to come on the show.
I will email him.
Who's the president of that company?
Steve Bogan, Bogan.
Spell his name again.
It's Steve, and then the last name
Bogan.
B as in boy. Bogan, yeah.
Yeah.
Steve. He was with Carl in the old days. He's a good guy, and they just got fully bought out by Henry Schein. So they were only partially owned, but now Henry Schein bought the rest of their company out. So they're a Henry Schein company now.
When did Schein buy them out?
They did the complete buyout. They actually closed it in January. In fact, Steve had called me and told me about it, that the company's been growing, and Henry Schein just decided to buy the rest of the company out. So he felt like, he says he still has control of the company, but he didn't know where Schein was going to take them next, because they're under the complete umbrella of the Schein.
Well, I know Stan Bergman very well for 30 years, and he's been on the show. He reminds me of the Cisco's. A lot of companies have R&D, but what they don't realize, their R&D never is successful as some young entrepreneur in his garage. So Cisco, Tom Chambers set out a long time ago. He said, we're not going to have an R&D department. We're just going to see who pops up and is the best and buy them. And I think Stan Bergman has bought 50 companies. And when you've bought 50 companies, you wouldn't sell to Schein if you could go back and call those 50 companies. They said those guys came in here and ruined it. You know what I mean? So he gives them complete autonomy, and he's a Wall Street boy. So what's his main objective is you got to deliver earnings to the bottom line. And the reason they can buy so many companies, it's really simple. I mean, it's just basic finance 101. If my stock is trading at a multiple of 10, and I can buy your company on a multiple of 5 years EBITDA, well, the minute I buy your company for $1, I just double the profit on my earnings, because my umbrella company is trading at an EBITDA of 10. And a lot of times these mergers and acquisitions, these stocks are publicly traded at 30 times earnings, and you could only sell your company at 5 to 7 times earnings. And so if I can buy your company at 5 times earnings and my stock's trading at 30 times earnings, I'm making money by just doing paperwork.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, the only thing that worries me about Schein, when they buy out these companies that are really innovative, when they're on their own, the only thing I see is they tend to lose the innovation once they're under the Schein umbrella.
Well, they do. They want to they buy your beautiful cow, and then they just want to milk it to death. They have no incentive to build another cow or R&D another cow. So yeah. Look at when they bought. Dentrix in Provo, Utah. I mean, look at all the companies that popped up around Provo just from ex-Dentrix employees adding features that they couldn't get the Dentrix to do now. You know, it went from
Okay.
it went from an innovation company to we just want to sell a bunch of software and make a bunch of money and a bunch of earnings. And then a bunch of employers like, well, if you're not going to do that, I'm just going to quit and go up. I mean, how they call, you know, there's Silicon Valley. They call it the what do they call it in Utah? The Mountain Valley or
Yeah.
whatever. But
Right.
we
Yeah.
did a whole issue on Dental Town of it. I think 6 months ago of just startup companies in Utah, and most of them are all tried back to. So yeah, so they're gonna buy a successful milk cow and then milk it and make a bunch of money. But I want to talk about something else. I want to switch gears. We talked a lot about implants, so you gave them good advice. Join the AASCD, take a Maxil case, start with Bio Horizons. But you're also doing orthodontics. Straighten your teeth, Dr. Direct Smiles. Straighten your teeth in 6 months or less. Now, is Dr. Direct Smiles, is that you?
That's me. So let me tell you the story. So, you know, I'm always the kind of guy that when innovation comes around, I jump on it. So when Invisalign came out back in 1997, I think, you know, I started jumping on the Invisalign bandwagon. I mean, I love technology because it's in my opinion, it simplifies your life. It's more predictable, and once you get it down, it's very profitable. So I was a big Invisalign fan for years. I mean, in fact, back in the early days of Invisalign, I had this rep, I forget his name, this big guy. He was he played in the NFL and got dropped out for some reason. And we would do these Invisalign days in my office. And again, you know, going back to my whole, you know, nature of doing things, I was the only guy doing Invisalign, you know, back when it first came out in my area. So we would do these Invisalign days, and one Saturday, and this guy would go to the mall down the street, to Stonewood Shopping Mall. He'd set up a booth, and you see, you know, Invisalign day with my office. You know, he's getting a commission on this too. You've got to realize this. So one Saturday, we popped 20 cases in one Saturday. We closed on him. He was running all over the office, giving the girls, you know, gifts and all of this stuff. And I was going, you know, this is a real thing. You know, you can actually straighten teeth with these clear aligners. So I kept using Invisalign. And then I got bummed out last year when I realized that Invisalign, you know, the reason Invisalign got involved with Smile Direct Club is because Invisalign sued Smile Direct Club before the patents expired. So then they ended up just buying a percentage of them. So I actually had patients coming in here and saying, hey, why should I pay you so much if I can go and get my aligners done with this mail order kit for less than $2,000? I'm thinking, shit, is this for reals, you know? So I'm going, you know, there's got to be a way around this because I'm losing now to this new. I mean, I think it's very innovative. I'm not going to talk bad about Smile Direct Club. I think it's a great product. So I had to think of a way to compete against this in my area. And then when they opened up a smile shop in CVS Pharmacy 2 miles from my office, I go, you know, what the heck's going on? And I looked online. They're opening up smile shops all over the country. I'm thinking, man, they're going to be in Walmart, Costco, you know, everywhere. They're called Smile Shops Express. So they have a scanner in there. Patient pops in, and they get scanned in 72 hours. They tell them if they're a candidate or not for their, you know, they only do mild cases, 24 aligners or less. Now, what ticked me off the most is I found out that if they're not a candidate for their, you know, Smile Direct Club product, the complex cases, they actually outsource them to their Invisalign Elite providers. So it's like, you know, so they go, the patient or the client that sees the, you know, Instagram ad goes in there, they get scanned. If they're a candidate, they get their aligners sent to their house. If they're not, they get outsourced to Invisalign Elite doctors. You know, and I'm going, you know what? They are going to kill me. And I spoke to a few orthodontists, and they're starting to feel the pinch, the ones that are not elite providers. I go, you know, I'm creating my own product. So I went out, did some research. I spoke to a couple of companies that you outsource lab, you know, your lab work to. So there's about 3 companies that are lab-to-lab outsourcers where they will print your models and make your clear aligners for 50% of what you're going to pay Invisalign. So I'm getting my aligners printed for about $10.50 a pop. So I go, I'm going to brand my own product for my patients, and we're going to market it internally, and then we're going to go externally to compete against, the Smile Direct Club, the Smile Express shops. So we launched this in my practice in September, and we've been batting 100% on doing this. Now, the key difference is with me is the patient has to get their exam and x-rays. They need to be clear dental work. They need to be healthy. And I can differentiate if they're a mild case or a moderate case. If it's anything beyond a moderate case, it's going out to the orthodontist. But imagine, we're doing cases now competing head-to-head with Smile Direct on pricing right now with my patients. So my goal here is, if I'm getting a 100% conversion rate with my patients, I'm going to build a website, and then I'm going to start marketing it locally first on Google, maybe some print marketing, and do some data to see how this works. So this is how this whole thing evolves. So it's really my own branded product right now that this Dr. Direct Smiles is about.
So on Dr. Direct Smiles, is that just for your own office, period? It's not for anybody else?
Right now, it's just for my own office. My whole thought process is because this is not a unique model. Honestly, this is not new. This is what Invisalign did 20 years ago. They found offices, they marketed the product. Patients came in and they saw you. Okay, so I'm not doing anything new or revolutionary. I didn't create the aligners or anything. All I'm doing is creating a marketing campaign to bring patients to my office. Now, I'm going to do this for 4 to 5 months and get as much data as possible. And then if other doctors want to join in on this, I'm going to try to figure out a business model to go, obviously, if I market this product in the entire LA County area, I'm not going to be able to handle the volume. There's no way. So I need other doctors on board. I'm trying to figure out a business model where it's not going to cost a doctor a dime to be part of this. I just want to train them and show them how to brand it and use a branded product to be able to do this in their office.
Well, how are you doing it in your office? I mean, what is you need a CBCT and some software and a printer?
You need an intraoral scanner. I mean, the key to making this profitable, quick and easy, you need that, what we call the digital workflow. And it's the key in dentistry and implantology. You need a really good digital workflow. So you need a good intraoral scanner. And there's a lot of scanners out there. Now, I picked one up recently that's new on the market because there's no monthly fee. It's open source. You can send your STL file anywhere. It comes from a very reputable company. I'll tell you the name. I know, a lot of doctors don't like to throw out names. It's a Korean company. It's called the Medic i500, MEDIT i500.
Okay, say it again. Medic, MEDIC.
MEDIT.
Then
the letter
MEDIT.
IT, and then the letter I, then 500. The company Medit, MEDIT, has been out since the year 2000. They were making a lot of industrial lab scanners, and they've been very successful in the dental laboratory industry, and they just launched this scanner. Now, I did my research on the scanner. The top guy, and I don't know if you've ever had him on your show, is Michael Scherner. He's a prosthodontist out of Northern California. I know you've ever had him on there. He's the digital guy, let me tell you.
Yeah, I love that guy. Mike, how do you spell his last name?
It's SCHERNER, Scherner, out of Sonora, California. He lectures a lot.
Yeah, Michael D. Scherer, SCHERER. That's a tough name. Michael David Scherer. And he was episode 166 on the podcast. So Michael recommended this Korean company?
So I called him up and I go, you know what, you're the guy to talk to. I want to buy a scanner. And he told me this is the one to buy. So if and I went in, I demoed the scanner, and it's been incredible.
What did it cost?
It's under 20 grand. It's the only intraoral scanner that's open source with no monthly fee that's under 20 grand. So you need the scanner to do the aligners, because the patients come in, you take a full mouth set of x-rays, you scan them, and it immediately flows through to the orthodontic lab to print your aligners. There's no areas where you have to stop, pour a model, take an impression, send the impression out, ship it. There's none of that's involved. It's clean. It's a perfect digital workflow. So that's a thing that we need to train the doctors on how to do this. That's what I need to do before I can launch this to other doctors.
So the biggies are what's the one out of Copenhagen, Denmark, 3Shape. So that's closed stores.
So no, 3Shape's not, but they have a monthly. It's like a $200 a month, subscription fee. I don't get it. You pay them like 40 grand for their scanner. It's not a cheap scanner. And then you have to pay them $200 a month to bloody use the thing.
Because that's what Wall Street wants. Why do you think they put Netflix at the same value as Disney? Because Disney would put $100 million into a movie, then try to have a blockbuster. But Netflix just that steady income. So if you don't have a reoccurring revenue business model, then Wall Street's gonna it's gonna hammer you. That's the number one thing they look for is a reoccurring revenue model. That's what Apple used to have, because everybody would upgrade their cell phones so regularly. But the times are turning on now. That's not so much. It's getting more price sensitive. So talk about your digital workflow. So you're giving great advice. I mean, you're telling them, here's a $20,000 scanner. And by the way, the open source is everything. I use SoftDent, which used to be owned by Kodak and was the big boy 30 years ago. And we spent all last year and converted to Open Dental just for that reason, because every time I do a podcast with anybody high tech, they say we can seamlessly program this into Open Dental because it's open software. And people they don't realize, but you're a big fan of open software. What practice management software do you use?
It's ACE, ACE out of Atlanta. Have you ever heard of them?
No, ACE Dental Software.
It's the best program. I dumped all those other guys. This is an incredible, easy to use software. I've been with them for over 4 years now, and they keep improving the product. Small company. I think they're out of Atlanta, aren't they? I think they're out of Atlanta.
Yeah. They're ACE Dental Software.
John Hastings is the guy to talk to.
John, is he a dentist?
No, he's the guy that I think he's the programmer that created it. John Hastings, and I've talked to him several times.
So
great product. I've recommended like 10 of my friends on that platform out here in California.
Wow. That is amazing. So you like the open software, so you're using ACE Dental Software out of Atlanta, whose website is ACE/dental. Is that a slash, that little hyphen thing? Yeah. ACE, not forward slash, ACE-dental. So you like the open software of ACE, and you like the open software of Medit. And then are you printing these in your office?
Not yet. Well, the problem with printing is I would have to hire, because of the volume of aligners we're doing now, I would have to hire somebody to, dump the file into the printer and then do the suck down on the aligners. That's labor intensive. So I can get the aligners, I can get the models printed, and then the aligners fabricated for $10.50 per aligner right now. So
for how much an aligner? How much?
$10.50.
And then how many aligners does your average patient need? 18 to 24? How many?
So what I'm doing is, for the mild cases that we're competing with Smile Direct Club, which is 24 aligners. That's their model. 24 aligners, which is about 3 to 4 months of wear. It's cost me $252 for the aligners. Okay. And then I outsource my design to a company. They're actually out of Glendale, Arizona. It's called Full Contour Design.
Yes.
Have you have been on the show or no?
I don't know. I've done I think we've talked about it.
Yes. So what I do is when we scan the patient with our scanner, it goes directly to Full Contour Design. They actually do the whole design of the movement of the teeth. Okay. So they have a program that designs the case for me. In 72 hours, the case is done. It goes directly to the lab to print the aligners. Okay. So Full Contour Design for $99 assigns the aligners. Then it gets printed. So my total fee for the printing of the aligners and design is about $300 on the average, and I'm charging $19.50 for the 24 aligners. So my net profit's $15.99 per case. My gross profit after the lab fees.
Wow.
So imagine I don't do any work. See, my goal, as I get older in my practice, in order to generate more revenue, because I can't do any more restorative or implant, I just don't have the time to do it. My goal is to get the staff to perform as much as possible for me in profitable situations. So what happens is they scan the patient, they submit the file to Full Contour Design. It goes to my printing lab. We get it. The patient has the option to come in on their first visit, or like Smile Direct Club, we send a kit to them. We have our own boxes with our own logo on them. That's all pre-made that we had manufactured. So I'm not involved in the whole patient flow at all, unless they need some restorative work. So my goal is, and the way we're going is to just generate as many aligner cases per month as possible. Right now we're averaging just about 15 to 20 cases a month with a gross profit of $15.99 per case, which is really, in my opinion, for me not having to drill, cut, use a scalpel, it's great profit. That's why I've gotten involved with this whole process and trying to do our own branded aligners.
Yeah, that method is not Korean. It's actually Winnipeg, Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I thought they were Korean.
Yeah, they're Winnipeg, Canada. Interesting, man. You have so much phenomenal advice, and I just wanted to the young kids who weren't. You and I are old enough to remember Orthodontic Centers of America, so we've seen all these DSOs go through. And,
right.
And the genius of what that move was and why it made Wall Street is because what people don't realize that orthodontists sell for $6,500, and then they put a huge economic barrier to entry. They say, well, we need $1,500 down. And that's why only 5% of Americans have ortho. They can't survive the $1,500 down payment. How most cars are bought without a $1,500 down payment. Right. And then they finance the 24 months with interest. And it's like, come on, dude, it's a service. It's not a car. When GM sells a car, they got to buy 30,000 parts. And they got to buy those parts and then assemble them and then sell a car. So they need their money back because they need to pay their suppliers. Well, imagine you went to get your hair cut or your nails done, and the lady said, oh, I'm going to do your nails once a month for 2 years. And it's $100 every treatment. So for 2 years, it'd be $2,400. So for me to do your nails today, I need $600 down. And then I'm going to finance the remaining $1,400 at 10% interest of you. And it's like, whoa, none of this makes sense. And Gasper Lazarus was the first one that saw that, and Smiles Direct Club sees it too. The actual Smiles Direct treatment cost is averaging, according to Google, $1,850 with a payment plan available at $250 up front, which is $99 per month for 15 months.
Right.
And so Americans don't have. Most orthodontists want that whole $1,850 as the down payment, and then they want to finance something for the next 2 years where they're not going to incur any costs of rent, mortgage, equipment, bill out, computer, insurance, update, professional fees. Why are you financing bills that you haven't even paid yet? The actual braces and brackets and the film on the Ceph, you don't even even have $100 in this case. So what Smiles Direct Club, that's why these guys can say, 0% down, 0% financing. We can finance this $99 a month. They can finance at $99 a month because they're not financing anything. They're actually going to.
It's no risk for them. And imagine if they're doing, hundreds of thousands of cases a month, and let's say a small percentage of these patients aren't happy, they'll just write them a check and give them their money back. That's what they're doing.
Right, exactly. And it's going to stir up a lot of, there's a lot of orthodontists that are posting all these cases and videos that don't do it yourself and do here. But you know what? Some people, that entry level of straightening is going to get them interested in their teeth. They're probably going to do some crest strips. They're going to start straightening. And then as they fall in love with their teeth, they'll value it more. Then they'll go to orthodontist and say, I want more. Then he might say, well, for more, this case needs this and that. So it might be an entry level starting point for a lot of Americans who then migrate up the food chain up into orthodontist offices. But I think it would be a much better country if 25% of the people who wanted ortho could get it, as opposed to 5% today. I mean, when you got 5% in the system and 95%, I mean, America was not built on making a few rich things for some rich kings and queens. It was about Henry Ford making a car for the masses. And I don't think anybody can say, I've been in dentistry 31 years, and I don't think anybody can say that orthodontics is being delivered to the masses. It's being delivered to the rich and the suburbans, and competition's good for any industry, because look what you've done. It's forced you to figure out open systems versus closed, different software, a digital workflow. So is this digital workflow, I want to go back to where we started in implantology, or this digital workflow, a lot of these young kids think, well, maybe I don't have to be a surgeon to place implants. If I get a really good digital workflow and make some really good surgical guide stents. I mean, if you had an exact CBCT and exact stents, couldn't Stevie Wonder just go in there and place the implant? So how does your digital workflow affect implantology? Do you use guided splints?
So let me talk about guided surgery. So, I'm an editor for the AAID monthly journal. So I get to review a lot of articles. So recently, in the past couple of years, there's some articles, some research came up on the accuracy of surgical guides. They're not 100% accurate. And in fact, I was just at Columbia. Columbia has a great one-day implant symposium the second weekend of December every year. It's great. You go to New York and you listen to the top guys internationally. They just bring in the top few guys that are talking about problems in implant dentistry. And it was brought up about, surgical and guided surgery. There's more cases with nerve damages worldwide now, problems associated with, misplaced implants because of guides. Guided surgery is great. It's great technology. It's part of the digital workflow, but you can't trust it 100%. You can't put your drill with a stop above the inferior alveolar canal, 1 millimeter above, and think that the guide's going to be your heaven, your savior, and everything's going to go perfect. One thing that I always say is, use technology, but if you're going to use it, you've got to always confirm that things are accurate. A lot of things can go wrong with a guide. From the placement of the guide in the mouth, the teeth can migrate a little bit. The way the guide's printed, there could be a lot of inaccuracies that can cause a minor deviation in the placement of the drill. So I only use guides in my practice if I'm doing an anterior case. Everything else that I do is pretty much, like I was taught with Carl Misch, I'm flapping, I'm evaluating. Obviously with my CBCT scan, we have one in the office and I couldn't work without one. I'm evaluating everything very carefully. One thing that I do with every scan that I take in my office, again, with a part of my digital workflow, is that file is uploaded to UCLA has a great maxillofacial radiology department. They review every CT scan that I take, and they provide measurements for me. And usually I request a 3 millimeter safety zone above the inferior alveolar canal. So the radiologist reviews every scan, every CBCT scan. They provide me a report. If I'm going to use a guide, I use my digital workflow in the office from my intraoral scan, my CBCT. Then I use Blue Sky Bio to merge them together. And with Blue Sky Bio, I can, again, outsource that file because it's an open file system, and I can have my lab print the guide. But do I use it in every case? Only use it in aesthetically critical cases. I use drill stops in all of my posterior cases. I have a drill stop kit that if I'm putting a 10 millimeter implant, my drill has a stop at 10 millimeters. But again, I think the key is to use technology because it's great, but always verify it. If you're going to use a guide, take your guide, put it in the mouth, verify, drill halfway down if you're going to put a 10 millimeter implant above the inferior alveolar zone. Drill 10 millimeters. If you're going to drill 10 millimeters, drill halfway down, verify your guide, the accuracy of your guide before you go and start drilling holes above the nerve and then cause some irreversible damage. So trust it, but verify your guides. Trust and verify. That's the key, and that would really alleviate a lot of problems, these problematic implant cases.
So you're very digital. Were you always like that, or do you just love technology?
I'm always on technology. I don't jump on it right away, but I wait. I waited to get my CBCT scan. I outsourced my scan for probably about 5 years. There's a company here in California. It's they have a mobile CBCT scan approach where they send out a van to your office and your patients get scanned on it. So I waited until the price of the CBCT scans came down below 80 grand, and I was able to,
And which one did you buy? Which one did you get?
J. Morita.
J. Morita, Japanese.
Yeah, the Japanese. They have a good scanner. That's about $80,000. Really good.
What's the name of it? J. Morita what?
It's a J. Morita, the Veriscope.
Veriscope.
Yeah. So they have a sub $80,000 scan, CBCT scan. If you're only placing 1 or 2 implants a month, don't go buy a CBCT scan. That's ridiculous. Outsource it. Buy a scanner where you're at least doing a volume of 10 to 15 implants a month, minimum. And even at that, you can still outsource your CBCT scan, but take a scan for every case, for God's sakes. You have to nowadays.
Man, I wish this is so amazing. You could do an online C course for Dental Town on how to do the ortho, the surgical guides. If you ever want to do some of the best marketing in the world, just put a course up on Dental Town, and then they'll get turned on to you. And as soon as they hear you and see you and all that, then they'll be going to your websites and courses and. Because you're someone that every damn homie listening to this show needs to know more of and listen to more of.
Oh, thanks a lot, Howard.
You are. You've been amazing for 3 decades. What year did you get out of dental school?
1986. It's hard to believe.
I know.
What year did you graduate?
1 year behind you, 87. You just look so much younger with all that good hair. But yeah, these homies, they love this stuff. They're commuting to work. You give them so much rock solid advice. So many things they can do. This is, come on, guys, you live in the richest country in the world. You live in the strongest economy in the world, and nobody wants to lose their teeth. Go up to any woman in America who's complaining that she doesn't have any money and say, well, I'll give you $1,000 if you let me pull your front tooth. She'll run. There's women who would not take $1 million for their front tooth. I've played this game on airplanes for 30 years. How much money would I have to give you to pull your front tooth? And they just scream, and they love whiter, brighter, sexier teeth. There's so much technology from implants, ortho, bleaching. There's just so much. It's really our game to lose. And man, I am so honored that you came on the show today. Is there anything that I didn't ask about that you wish we would have talked about?
No, you're good. My big advice is, you got to learn, and then practice within your scope. You can have like 5 different profit centers in your practice, but you get really good at them. It doesn't mean you're going to be doing all on 4s or all these crazy surgeries, but develop a technique that's very profitable and simple. Develop an endodontic technique, an implant technique, clear liners, you know, you get 3-4 profit margins in your practice, you'll be really successful. But for God's sakes, train your staff and pay them well, because if not, nothing's going to work.
And to tell you how completely backward dentistry is, you go to all these conventions, they're all going to bring in these people that talk about these all-on-4s, and they're like the sacred golden cow. And America does 100 all-on-nones for every all-on-4. And would you rather own the whole all-on-none denture market or own the whole all-on-4? I mean, the whole all-on-4, I mean, what is it, Clear Choice? I mean, what do they do, about 17,000 units a year in a country that has 324 million people? And I know dentists, I know so many dentists, back in the Mish days, you know who made the most money in my class that went through the Mish Institute, we got our fellowship together? You know who it was?
No.
It was about 3 different guys who went back to their hometown where they had this nice practice in the suburb and realized that over in the poor trailer park area, there was this old denture world that had been in business for 30, 40 years. And he went in there and they were doing about 300,000 a year. And the guy said, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to keep you on as an employee. And then I'm going to, where we have the denture and they come in and you're advertising at $250 an arch or $499 full mouth, but then you could upgrade it to 2 dentures, lower snap-on, and then you could upgrade it to 4, and you could and the upgrades. So everybody would always go to Denture World, and then he started upgrading 100 implants a month for 3 decades. I mean, I've seen this in Bakersfield. I've seen this in my own backyard. I've seen this a couple places in Florida, one in South Carolina, and they just said, you know, so they went after the mass McDonald's market where everybody's going to Denture World, and then they start upgrading them into these fine deals. And sure enough, you have 100 people that come in wanting a new denture. 1 or 2 of them is going to get an all-on-4.
I've been doing implants for over 20 years. I rarely have a patient that's going to give me $25,000 for an arch, honestly. So I personally stopped doing those cases, because if I'm only doing 1 a year, I'm going to lose money on it.
Right.
You know, I'd rather just keep it simple, stupid, man. Just work hard and keep it simple. You'll be very profitable. You start going to these courses where you're doing all these all-on-4s, you have 1 failure, it's going to cost you a freaking fortune.
Yeah, and if it goes to court, it's going to be the next 5 cases you did are going to just pay for your legal fees. Hey, think you'll ever make us an online CE course? Would you ever be up for that?
I'll definitely put it on. Definitely.
Thanks, man. That would be so exciting for those kids to see that course. That would be amazing. But hey, again, thank you for all that you do for dentistry. You ever want to come back on the show, or you want to send someone else on the show, you talk about your anesthesiologist or whoever, thanks for all you do for dentistry, and thank you so much for coming on the show today.
All right, thanks, Howard. It's a pleasure. Keep it rocking.